What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow Chart podcast with your boys, Matt Wolf and Joe Fear.
What are some habits that, I mean, you mentioned resiliency already. I guess some other habits that you kind of develop or you think are like core principles that we can take from games, or maybe swap games out with something else that someone can relate to that you now
sure,
take in a business.
for sure. I think, persistence is probably one of the most important things. One of my favorite quotes from Winston Churchill is, if you're going through hell, keep going. And I love that, right? I think most people see pain as this like really negative thing. As long as it's not physical pain, it's all designed to help make you better, right? So I think, if I decided to, and I'm sure this is the same for you guys, my first podcast, Leveling Up, after the first year, I was only getting 9 downloads a day. And after the second year, I was only getting 30 downloads a day. And mind you, I was spending 6 hours a week editing, reaching out to people, doing the interview, I was doing it all on my own while I was trying to save Single Grain. Everything was on fire. Your
agency.
So my mom would probably be like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? Like, stop, like you're not getting any results here. Right. But I think persistence is one thing, but also understanding to optimize for the right thing, because what I was optimizing for was the learnings, right? I was learning for free from these millionaires, billionaires, best-selling authors. And all that wisdom came over to help me save my business ultimately. And, every now and then someone would say something nice. That's great. But eventually I kept going, and that's how the audience grew. And I was able to parlay that podcast into marketing school. So.
Yeah. I mean, we could definitely relate to that as far as the podcast growth. Yeah. I mean, but we did exactly the same thing. When we started this show, we've been podcasting since 2010, but we started this show 4 years ago. And when we started this show, we said, if this show never makes money, how do we make it a success for us? Right. So our goal was to use this as a tool to network and get to know as many people as possible, and also to learn from anybody that was willing to come on and talk with us. And that's how we started. Over time, it eventually grew and made money and built a brand for us. But that was the initial intention. We went, what would we be able to keep doing, even if it never made us any money, but still be a win for us?
It's such good upside. I mean, free education, free networking with some of the smartest people in the world. And it leads to some of my best friends have come from podcasting. And so I just Naval Ravikant talks about 4 forms of leverage, right? You got code, capital, labor, and media, right? I think everyone needs to think about how they can build that media moat around them. So
no, it's smart.
Have you read the Almanac of Naval yet?
I have it. I always have the stack of books, and like whoever recommends something on a podcast, I just add to cart on Amazon. So
it's good, man.
Yeah, the Almanac of Naval is so good.
I saw that you're reposting some Naval stuff. I was like, I like Eric even more. This is good.
Dude, I'll tell you guys what. Like, okay, if you look at the books on your shelf over there, what % of them have you actually read?
This is Matt's shelf, so I can't answer that.
Probably 20%.
Okay, that's perfect, right? Because most people, when they ask that question, it's a very judgmental question. Like, how many have you actually read, Matt? Right? But then you realize, and I got this recently, Nassim Taleb says you should have an anti-library, meaning that the bookshelf you got behind you that's used for research, right? It's not some ego thing. It's like you're using it to get smarter. And so if you have a lot of information back there, it's all recommended and vetted. Look, you'll come to it when the time is right. So I think a lot of people just need to reframe. And I guess maybe this is another power up, reframing certain things, and then you'll probably become even more powerful.
Yeah. When it comes to books too, I'm a big fan of, like, if you get through the first couple chapters and it's not really grabbing you, you're not getting great information, move on. So like I'll do that a lot. I'll get recommended a book. I'll buy the book. I'll get it. I'll read the first couple chapters. I'll either go, I kind of get the thesis of what you're trying to say here. I don't know if I really need to read on, or B, like, this just isn't grabbing me, or maybe I don't totally agree. And I'll put the book on my shelf and be done with it. And I think a lot of people, that's painful for them to like buy something and not finish it. I'm totally cool reading a chapter or two going, didn't give me what I wanted, put it on my shelf. Maybe I'll need it in the future.
There you go. That's another reframe thing, right? And another one that Naval does actually is he just treats each chapter as a blog post. You don't need to follow everything sequentially, like just jump around. And he reads multiple books at once, right? Which it seems intuitive to me and probably to you guys too. So anyway, it's a lot of reframing.
Another good example is Derek Sivers. I'm sure, I mean, like, he's so similar, where what you just said, blog posts and I mean, he like basically packaged up in these new books a lot of blog posts, but freaking brilliant, very simple. But it's along the same lines of Naval in different form, of course. But
for sure.
Man, so cool. Dude, I love the concept of power-ups too, and just actually noticing how you can upgrade your mind, your life, emotions, all that stuff. Like, do you track this somehow? I'm sure you have because you've written a book now on it, but like, how can folks kind of identify their power-ups and really maybe keep them in mind? Because I think a lot of folks maybe just don't recognize them, or they don't consistently keep them going.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're playing like Super Mario, you understand that, like, whether you're Mario or Luigi, if you eat a mushroom, you're going to grow, right? Or if you eat the feather, or I don't know if you eat it or not, but then you get a cape and you can fly around.
Right.
And so I think these power-ups are universal. Like, we talk about things such as, having a growth mindset, right? That to me is very much a power-up. Or, one of the chapters has something about ethically stealing, right? So if you think about everything around you, it's just a remix, right? And Steve Jobs said this, like, the microphone you have in front of you is just an improvement or iteration on something from the past. And so, I think the premise of the book is understanding the concept of power-ups, and that it's endless power-ups to collect, right? Because in the book I have 15 in there, but there's way more than that. If you have that right mindset and you just go think about collecting more, and you have a beginner's mindset, to me, you should become the best version of yourself, because, like, people always say this, right? If I can do this, you can do this. Like, Mark Cuban has said that before, right? But it's like, is it really that bad? No, like, it's fun as hell once you think about it. Like,
yeah. And you mentioned beginner mindset too. I don't know if that's Naval that talks about that, or someone recently.
Well, beginner's
a lot of
mindset
people.
is
A lot
sort
of
of Zen philosophy, like
Definitely.
from Buddhism and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, how do you have any tips on, like, kind of anchoring yourself in a beginner's mindset when you're going into things? Yeah.
I think so this is weird. Maybe this is Asian culture, but growing up, like, when my tiger mom used to give me the beat down all the time, right? Like, you're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. But like, that to me is it's so motivating and it's so energizing. And so to me, I've learned to reframe that as, man, that's power, right? Give me more. So when someone writes like a negative review or what, I'm like, give me more, right? Like, I'm so excited because it actually, like, it gets me to do better. So, by the way, I lost track of your question already.
Beginner's mindset. So kind of like how you, yeah.
Okay. So when I think about beginner's mindset, let me think about this a little bit. I had it and I lost it. So give me 1 second.
Sure.
I don't think that I know too much. I don't think I'm that good. And I also don't think I'm that bad either. So that's the way I approach it. And that makes it a lot easier, right? Because it keeps me humble and it keeps me even keeled. And that's how you got to keep going. Because the moment you start to think that you're amazing, the moment you start to become too full of yourself, that's when things start to fall apart, right? And so I've learned to keep myself even keeled, because like, every single time that I've learned I take my foot off the gas pedal, then it's like, oh, well, that's what happened. You got too complacent. So
yeah. I think for myself, one of the things that I tend to do is I constantly try to find ways to challenge my current beliefs, or like what I think is the way things are, right? So like politics, for instance, right? Like, I have a certain set of beliefs. I'm constantly seeking out, like, how do other people think that way when I think this way? And I'm constantly searching for, like, sources of counterintuitive information, or not counterintuitive, but like counter to what I believe information. And I think that's a really good, like, sort of way to constantly stay nimble, is to have this sort of mentality that my opinions and my beliefs on the way things are could change in an instant.
Totally. It's, you know what it is? It's strong views loosely held, right? And I don't remember where I got that from, but it's just understanding that, hey, you can have a strong opinion, but constantly be ready to update the software that you have, right? Because our mind is very much just software. So you want to keep updating it over time.